Welcome back. I am Pemberton, and this is Book 14, Part 3. Now the central figure of the rest of Josephus' story walks on stage, Herod. His father Antipater gives him, still a young man, the governorship of Galilee, and he announces himself at once by hunting down and executing a band of brigands with their trial, which lands him before the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem on a capital charge, a confrontation he survives in a way that puts everyone on notice. We will watch his nerve, his charm, and his ruthlessness all on display. And then Josephus does something unusual. He lays out, decree after decree, the official Roman documents granting the Jews their rights and protections across the empire, dry-looking file that is, in fact, the legal charter of Jewish life under Rome. We will go through it as he gives it. Let us go on.
After Caesar had settled the affairs of Syria, he sailed away. When Antipater had escorted Caesar out of Syria, he returned to Judea. He immediately rebuilt the wall that Pompey had thrown down, and when he came into the country he quieted the unrest there. He did this both by warning the people and by advising them to keep the peace. He told them that if they stood with Hyrcanus, they would live happily, undisturbed, and in possession of their own property. But if they gave themselves over to hopes of change and tried to gain wealth through rebellion, they would find him a harsh master instead of a mild governor, Hyrcanus a tyrant instead of a king, and the Romans, together with Caesar, bitter enemies instead of rulers. For the Romans would never tolerate the removal of the man whom they themselves had appointed to govern. After Antipater had spoken to them in this way, he arranged the affairs of the country himself. Seeing that Hyrcanus was slow and inactive by nature, Antipater made his eldest son, Phasaelus, governor of Jerusalem and the surrounding places. He entrusted Galilee to his next son, Herod, who was still very young, only 15 years old. Yet his youth did not hold him back. Since he was a young man of great spirit, he soon found an opportunity to show his courage. He discovered that a certain Hezekiah, the leader of a band of robbers, was overrunning the neighboring parts of Syria with a large company. Herod seized him and killed him, along with many of the other robbers who were with him. Because of this deed he was greatly loved by the Syrians, for they had strongly desired to have their country freed from this nest of robbers, and he had cleared it out. So in their villages and cities they sang songs in his praise, because he had brought them peace and secure enjoyment of their possessions. On this account he became known to Sextus Caesar, a relative of the great Caesar, who was then governor of Syria. Phasaelus, Herod's brother, was stirred by rivalry at Herod's actions. He envied the reputation Herod had gained and became eager not to fall behind him in deserving praise. So, while he held the city himself, he won the strongest goodwill of the inhabitants of Jerusalem. He did not mismanage its affairs or abuse his authority there. By this conduct Antipater gained from the nation the kind of respect due to kings, and honors such as he might have enjoyed if he had been absolute lord of the country. Yet this greatness, as often happens with others, did not in the least lessen the kindness and loyalty that he owed to Hyrcanus. But the leading men among the Jews saw that Antipater and his sons were growing so much in the nation's goodwill, and in the revenues they received from Judea and from Hyrcanus' own wealth, that they became hostile toward him. Antipater had formed a friendship with the Roman emperors, and when he persuaded Hyrcanus to send them money, he took it into his own hands, misappropriated the gift that was meant to come from Hyrcanus, and sent it as though it were his own present rather than Hyrcanus's. Hyrcanus heard of this conduct, but paid no attention to it. Indeed, he was rather pleased by it. The chief men of the Jews, however, were afraid because they saw that Herod was a violent and bold man, and very eager to act like a tyrant. So they came to Hyrcanus, and openly accused Antipater. How long will you remain quiet under such actions as these? Do you not see that Antipater and his sons have already seized the government, and that only the name of king is left to you? Do not let these things be hidden from you. Do not imagine that you can escape danger by being so careless of yourself and of your kingdom. Antipater and his sons are no longer managers of your affairs. Do not deceive yourself with such an idea. They are plainly absolute lords. Herod, Antipater's son, has killed Hezekiah and those who were with him, and by doing so has violated our law, which forbids killing any man, even a wicked man, unless he has first been condemned to death by the Sanhedrin. Yet he has been insolent enough to do this without any authority from you. When Hyrcanus heard this, he yielded to them. The mothers of those whom Herod had killed also stirred up his anger. These women continued every day in the temple, urging the king and the people to make Herod stand trial before the Sanhedrin for what he had done. Hyrcanus was so moved by these complaints that he summoned Herod to come to trial on the charges against him. Herod came accordingly, but his father had persuaded him not to come like a private man, but with a guard for the safety of his person. After arranging the affairs of Galilee as well as he could for his own advantage, he was to come to his trial with enough men to protect him on the journey, but not with so large a force that it would seem intended to frighten Hyrcanus. Still, it had to be enough that he would not be left exposed and unguarded to his enemies. Meanwhile, Sextus Caesar, governor of Syria, wrote to Hyrcanus, urging him to acquit Herod and dismiss him from the trial, and he threatened him beforehand if he did not do so. This letter caused Hyrcanus to deliver Herod from suffering any harm from the Sanhedrin, for Hyrcanus loved him as his own son. But when Herod stood before the Sanhedrin with his men around him, he frightened them all. None of his former accusers then dared to bring any charge against him. There was deep silence, and no one knew what should be done. You who sit with me as judges, and you who are our king, I myself have never known such a case, nor do I suppose that any of you can name another like it, that a man called to be tried by us should ever stand before us in this manner. Everyone, whoever he may be, who comes to be tried by this Sanhedrin presents himself humbly, like a man afraid for himself, trying to move us to compassion, with his hair disheveled and wearing black mourning clothes. But this admirable man Herod, who is accused of murder and called to answer so serious a charge, stands here clothed in purple, with the hair of his head finely trimmed, and with armed men around him, so that if we condemn him according to our law, he may kill us and escape death himself by overpowering justice. Yet, I do not make this complaint against Herod himself. He is to be sure more concerned for himself than for the laws. My complaint is against you and against your king, who have given him permission to act this way. But take notice, God is great, and this very man, whom you are about to acquit and dismiss for Hyrcanus' sake, will one day punish both you and your king himself. Samias was not mistaken in any part of this prediction. When Herod later received the kingdom, he killed all the members of the Sanhedrin, and Hyrcanus himself also, except for Samias. Herod held Samias in great honor because of his righteousness, and because, when the city was later besieged by Herod and Sosius, Samias persuaded the people to admit Herod into it. He told them that because of their sins they would not be able to escape his hands. These matters will be related in their proper places. But when Hyrcanus saw that the members of the Sanhedrin were ready to pronounce a sentence of death on Herod, he postponed the trial to another day. He then secretly sent word to Herod, advising him to flee from the city, because by doing this he could escape. So Herod withdrew to Damascus, as though he were fleeing from the king. After he had stayed with Sextus Caesar, and put his own affairs in a secure position, he resolved that if he were again summoned before the Sanhedrin for trial, he would not obey the summons. Because of this situation, the members of the Sanhedrin were deeply indignant and tried to persuade Hyrcanus that all these things were directed against him. Hyrcanus was not ignorant of the state of affairs, but his temper was so weak and foolish that he was unable to do anything at all. Then Sextus made Herod general of the army of Celesyria, having sold him that office for money. Hyrcanus became afraid that Herod would make war on him, and what he feared was not long in coming. Herod came with an army to fight against Hyrcanus, angry that he had been summoned to stand trial before the Sanhedrin. But his father Antipater and his brother Phasaelus met him and prevented him from attacking Jerusalem. They also calmed his fierce temper and persuaded him to take no open action, but only to frighten them with threats, and to go no further against the man who had given him the dignity he possessed. They urged him not only to be angry that he had been summoned and forced to come to trial, but also to remember that he had been dismissed without condemnation, and that he ought to thank Hyrcanus for that. He should not look only at what had displeased him, and then be ungrateful for his deliverance. They also asked him to consider that, since it is God who turns the scales of war, the outcome of battles is very uncertain, and therefore he ought not to expect victory when fighting against his king, against the man who had supported him, bestowed many benefits on him, and had done nothing truly severe to him. The accusation had come from bad advisers, not from Hyrcanus himself, and it had carried more the appearance of some severity than anything really severe. Herod was persuaded by these arguments. He believed it was enough for his future hopes to have displayed his strength before the nation, and to have done no more against it. Such was the condition of affairs in Judea at that time. When Caesar came to Rome, he was preparing to sail to Africa to fight Scipio and Cato. At that time Hyrcanus sent ambassadors to him, asking him to confirm the treaty of friendship and mutual alliance that already existed between them. I think it is necessary here to record all the honors that the Romans and their emperor gave our nation, and the treaties of mutual assistance they made with it, so that everyone may know how highly the kings of Asia and Europe regarded us, and how fully they were convinced of our courage and loyalty. Many people refuse to believe what the Persians and Macedonians wrote about us, because those writings are not found everywhere or kept in public places, but only among ourselves and certain other foreign nations. But no one can deny the decrees of the Romans, because they are stored in the public places of the cities, still exist in the capital, and are engraved on bronze pillars. Besides this, Julius Caesar made a bronze pillar for the Jews at Alexandria and publicly declared that they were citizens of Alexandria. From these proofs I will show the truth of what I say, and I will now set down the decrees made by the Senate and by Julius Caesar concerning Hyrcanus and our nation. Caius Julius Caesar, Imperator, High Priest, and Dictator for the second time, sends greetings to the magistrates, Senate, and people of Sidon. If you are well, that is good. I and the army are also well. I have sent you a copy of the decree, recorded on the tablets concerning Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, the high priest and etharch of the Jews, so that it may be placed among the public records. I also order that it be displayed publicly on a bronze tablet, in both Greek and Latin. It is as follows. I, Julius Caesar, Imperator for the second time and High Priest, have made this decree with the approval of the Senate. Since Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander the Jew, has shown his loyalty and diligence in our affairs, both now and in earlier times, in peace and in war, as many of our generals have testified, and since he came to help us in the recent Alexandrian war with 1,500 soldiers, and since, when I sent him to Mithridates, he proved himself braver than all the rest of that army. For these reasons I order that Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, and his children shall be ethnarchs of the Jews, and shall hold the high priesthood of the Jews forever, according to the customs of their ancestors. He and his sons shall be our allies, and each of them shall also be counted among our special friends. I further decree that he and his children shall keep every privilege belonging to the office of high priest, and every favor that has already been granted to them. If any question should arise later about Jewish customs, I order that he shall decide it. I also think it improper that they should be required to provide us winter quarters, or that any money should be demanded from them. The decrees of XIV consul, stating what has been granted and decided, are these: Hyrcanus and his children shall rule over the nation of the Jews and shall receive the profits of the places granted to them. He, as high priest and ethnarch of the Jews, shall defend those who suffer wrong. Ambassadors shall be sent to Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, the high priest of the Jews, to discuss a treaty of friendship and mutual assistance with him. A bronze tablet containing these decisions shall be publicly displayed in the capital, and at Sidon, Tyre, Ascalon, and in the temple, engraved in Roman and Greek letters. This decree shall also be communicated to the quaestors and praetors of the several cities, and to the friends of the Jews. The ambassadors shall receive gifts, and these decrees shall be sent everywhere. XIV, imperator, dictator, and consul, has granted this, out of regard for the man's honor, virtue, and kindness, and for the benefit of the Senate and the people of Rome. Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, and his children shall be high priests and priests of Jerusalem and of the Jewish nation, with the same right and under the same laws by which their ancestors held the priesthood. XIV, consul for the 5th time, has decreed that the Jews shall possess Jerusalem and may surround that city with walls, and that Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, the high priest and ethnarch of the Jews, may keep it in whatever manner he chooses. The Jews shall be allowed, every second year in which the land is leased during the sabbatic period, to deduct 1 chorus from that tribute. The tribute shall not be farmed out, and they shall not always pay the same tribute. XIV, imperator for the 2nd time, has ordered that all the country of the Jews, except Joppa, shall pay a yearly tribute for the city of Jerusalem, except in the 7th year, which they call the sabbatical year, because in that year they neither gather the fruit of their trees nor sow their land. In the 2nd year of that sabbatical period, they shall pay their tribute at Sidon, amounting to 1/4 of what was sown. Besides this, they shall pay Hyrcanus and his sons the same tithes that they paid to their ancestors. No president, lieutenant, or ambassador may raise auxiliary troops within the borders of Judea. Soldiers may not demand money from them for winter quarters or under any other pretext, but they shall be free from every kind of injury. Whatever they later have, possess, or buy, they shall keep. It is also our pleasure that the city of Joppa, which the Jews originally held when they made a treaty of friendship with the Romans, shall belong to them as it did before. Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, and his sons shall receive from those who occupy the land, for the country and for what they export each year to Sidon, 20,675 modi yearly as the tribute of that city, except in the 7th year, which they call the sabbatic year, when they neither plough nor receive the produce of their trees. It is also the Senate's pleasure that Hyrcanus and the Jews shall have the villages in the great plain, which Hyrcanus and his ancestors formerly possessed, with the same privileges they formerly enjoyed. The original ordinances concerning the Jews and their high priests shall remain in force, and they shall enjoy the same benefits formerly granted by the people and the Senate. Let them enjoy the same privileges in Lydda. It is also the Senate's pleasure that Hyrcanus the ethnarch and the Jews shall retain those places, countries, and villages that belong to the kings of Syria and Phoenicia, the allies of the Romans, and that those kings gave them freely. Hyrcanus, his sons, and the ambassadors they sent to us are also granted the right to sit among the senators when they watch single combats of gladiators and fights with beasts. When they request an audience, they shall be introduced into the Senate by the dictator or by the general of the horse, and after they have been introduced, an answer shall be returned to them within 10 days at the latest after the Senate makes its decree concerning their affairs. XIV, imperator, dictator for the 4th time, consul for the 5th time, and declared perpetual dictator, made this statement concerning the rights and privileges of Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, the high priest and ethnarch of the Jews, since the imperators who governed the provinces before me have testified, before the Senate and people of Rome, in favor of Hyrcanus, the high priest of the Jews, and of the Jews themselves, and since the people and Senate return thanks to them, it is fitting that we also remember this now. We should provide that the Senate and people of Rome repay Hyrcanus, the nation of the Jews, and the sons of Hyrcanus, in a way worthy of the goodwill they have shown us and the benefits they have given us. Julius Caius, praetor of Rome, sends greetings to the magistrates, Senate, and people of the Parians. The Jews of Delos, and certain other Jews staying there, have informed us in the presence of your ambassadors that, by a decree of yours, you forbid them to use the customs of their ancestors and their manner of sacred worship. I do not approve of decrees being made against our friends and allies by which they are forbidden to live according to their own customs, or to bring in contributions for common meals and holy festivals, especially since they are not forbidden to do this even in Rome itself. For XIV, our imperator and consul, in the decree in which he forbade the Bacchanal rioters to meet in the city, still permitted these Jews, and only these Jews, both to bring in their contributions and to hold their common meals. Accordingly, while I forbid other Bacchanal rioters, I permit these Jews to gather together according to the customs and laws of their ancestors, and to continue doing so. Therefore, if you have made any decree against these friends and allies of ours, it would be right for you to cancel it because of their virtue and their kindly disposition toward us. After Caius was killed, Marcus Antonius and Publius Dolabella were consuls. They assembled the Senate, brought Hyrcanus's ambassadors before it, discussed what the ambassadors requested, and made a treaty of friendship with them. The Senate also decreed that everything they requested should be granted. I add the decree itself, so that readers of this work may have ready proof of the truth of what we say. This decree of the Senate was copied from the treasury, from the public tablets belonging to the quaestors, when Quintus Rutilius and Caius Cornelius were quaestors. It was taken from the second tablet of the first class, on the third day before the Ides of April, in the Temple of Concord. Present when this decree was written were Lucius Calpurnius Piso of the Maninian tribe, Servius Papinus Potatus of the Lemonian tribe, Caius Caninius Robilius of the Tarentine tribe, Publius Tydeus, Lucius Apollinus, the son of Lucius of the Sergian tribe, Flavius, the son of Lucius of the Lemonian tribe, Publius Platens, the son of Publius of the Papirian tribe, Marcus Acilius, the son of Marcus of the Metian tribe, Lucius Erucius, the son of Lucius of the Stelatine tribe, Marullus Quintus Plancillus, the son of Marcus of the Paulian tribe, and Publius Sirius. Publius Dolabella and Marcus Antonius, the consuls, referred this matter to the Senate, concerning the things that XIV had decided by decree of the Senate about the Jews, but whose decree had not yet been brought into the treasury. It is our will, and also the desire of Publius Dolabella and Marcus Antonius, our consuls, that these decrees be entered in the public tablets and brought to the city quaestors, so that they may see that they are placed on the double tablets. This was done before the 5th of the Ides of February, in the Temple of Concord. The ambassadors from Hyrcanus the high priest were these: Lysimachus, the son of Pausanias, Alexander, the son of Theodorus, Patroclus, the son of Chereas, and Jonathan, the son of Onias. Hyrcanus also sent one of these ambassadors to Dolabella, who was then prefect of Asia, and asked him to release the Jews from military service, to preserve for them the customs of their ancestors, and to allow them to live according to those customs. When Dolabella received Hyrcanus's letter, without any further deliberation he sent a letter to all the Asiatics, and especially to the city of the Ephesians, the metropolis of Asia, concerning the Jews. A copy of that letter follows. When Arterman was praetanes, on the first day of the month Lenian, Dolabella, imperator, sends greetings to the Senate, magistrates, and people of the Ephesians. Alexander, the son of Theodorus, the ambassador of Hyrcanus, the son of Alexander, the high priest and ethnarch of the Jews, appeared before me and explained that his countrymen could not enter the armies, because they are not permitted to carry weapons or travel on the Sabbath days, nor can they there obtain the kinds of food they have been accustomed to eat since the time of their ancestors. I therefore grant them exemption from entering the army, as the former prefects have done, and I permit them to follow the customs of their ancestors by assembling together for sacred and religious purposes, as their law requires, and by collecting the offerings necessary for sacrifices. It is my will that you write this to the several cities under your jurisdiction. These were the concessions Dolabella granted to our nation when Hyrcanus sent an embassy to him. At my tribunal I have released these Jews for military service. They are citizens of Rome, they follow the Jewish religious rites, and they live at Ephesus. I have exempted them because of the religious scruple under which they live. This was done before the 12th day before the calends of October, when Lucius Lentulus and Caius Marcellus were consuls. Present were Titus Appius Balgus, son of Titus, lieutenant of the Horatian tribe, Titus Tongans, son of Titus, of the Crustumine tribe, Quintus Resius, son of Quintus, Titus Pompeius Longinus, son of Titus, Caius Servilius, son of Caius, of the Tarentine tribe, Brachus the military tribune, Publius Lucius Gallus, son of Publius, of the Vetrian tribe, Caius Sentens, son of Caius, of the Sabbatine tribe, and Titus Attilius Bulbus, son of Titus, lieutenant and vice-praetor. To the magistrates, senate, and people of the Ephesians greetings. Lucius Lentulus the consul, at my request, exempted the Jews in Asia from serving in the armies. Later I made the same request to Fanius the imperator and to Lucius Antonius the vice-quaestor, and I obtained that privilege from them also. I therefore want you to see that no one troubles them. This is the decree of the Delians, the answer of the praetors, when Beotus was archon on the 20th day of the month Tharjulian. While Marcus Piso the lieutenant was living in our city, and had also been appointed to oversee the selection of soldiers, he summoned us and many other citizens and ordered that if any Jews here are Roman citizens, no one is to trouble them about going into the army, because Cornelius Lentulus the consul exempted the Jews from military service because of their religious scruple. You are therefore required to submit to the praetor. The Sardians also made a similar decree concerning us. Caius Fannius, son of Caius, imperator and consul, to the magistrates of Cos, greetings. I want you to know that the ambassadors of the Jews came to me and asked to receive the decrees that the Senate had made concerning them. Those decrees are attached below. I want you to respect them and take care of these men according to the decree of the Senate, so that they may be safely escorted home through your country. I have dismissed those Jews who are Roman citizens and who appear to me to keep their religious rites and observe the laws of the Jews at Ephesus, because of the religious scruple under which they live. This was done before the 13th day before the calends of October. Lucius Antonius, son of Marcus, vice, quaestor and vice, praetor, to the magistrates, Senate, and people of the Sardians, greetings. Those Jews who are our fellow citizens of Rome came to me and showed that, from the beginning, they have had an assembly of their own according to the laws of their forefathers, and also a place of their own where they decide their lawsuits and disputes with one another. Since they petitioned me to have these things recognized as lawful for them, I ordered that these privileges be preserved, and that they be allowed to act accordingly. The declaration of Marcus Publius, son of Spurius, and of Marcus, son of Marcus, and of Lucius, son of Publius, is this: we went to the proconsul and informed him of what Josephus, son of Cleopatra of Alexandria, requested, that if he thought it proper, he would dismiss those Jews who were Roman citizens and who were accustomed to observe the rites of the Jewish religion because of the religious scruple under which they live. Accordingly, he did dismiss them. This was done before the 13th day before the calends of October. In the month Quintius, when Lucius Lentulus and Caius Marcellus were consuls, the following were present: Titus Appius Balbus, son of Titus, lieutenant of the Horatian tribe; Titus Tongius of the Crustumine tribe; Quintus Rusius, son of Quintus; Titus Pompeius, son of Titus; Cornelius Longinus; Caius Servilius Brachus, son of Caius, a military tribune of the Tarentine tribe; Publius Clusius Gallus, son of Publius, of the Vetrian tribe; Caius Tutius, son of Caius, a milital tribune of the Eniljan tribe; Sextus Attilius Serenus, son of Sextus, of the Esquiline tribe; Caius Pompeius, son of Caius, of the Sabbatine tribe; Titus Appius Menander, son of Titus; Publius Servilius Strabo, son of Publius; Lucius Paxius Capito, son of Lucius, of the Colline tribe; Aulus Furius Tertius, son of Aulus, and Appius Menus. In their presence Lentulus pronounced this decree: before the tribunal I have dismissed those Jews who are Roman citizens and who are accustomed to observe the sacred rites of the Jews at Ephesus, because of the religious scruple under which they live. The magistrates of the Laodiceans to Caius Rubilius, son of Caius, the consul, greetings. Sopater, the ambassador of Hyrcanus the high priest, delivered to us a letter from you, in which you informed us that certain ambassadors had come from Hyrcanus, the high priest of the Jews, and had brought a letter concerning their nation. In it they requested that the Jews be allowed to observe their Sabbaths and their other sacred rites according to the laws of their forefathers, and that they be placed under no command, because they are our friends and confederates, and that no one injure them in our provinces. Although the Trallians who were present opposed them, and were not pleased with these decrees, you nevertheless ordered that they be observed and informed us that you had been asked to write to us about them. Therefore, in obedience to the instructions we received from you, we have accepted the letter you sent us and have deposited it by itself among our public records. As for the other matters about which you wrote to us, we will take care that no complaint is made against us. Publius Servilius, son of Publius, of the Galban tribe, the proconsul, to the magistrates, Senate, and people of the Milesians, greetings. Prytanes, son of Hermes, one of your citizens, came to me when I was at Tralles, and was holding court there. He informed me that you were treating the Jews in a way contrary to my judgment, forbidding them to celebrate their Sabbaths, to perform the sacred rites received from their forefathers, and to manage the fruits of the land according to their ancient custom. He also said that he himself had published your decree, as your laws require. I therefore want you to know that after hearing the pleadings on both sides, I gave judgment that the Jews should not be forbidden to use their own customs. This is the decree of those of Pergamus. When Cratipus was Prytanes, on the first day of the month Decius, the decree of the praetors was as follows: since the Romans, following the conduct of their ancestors, take on dangers for the common safety of all mankind and desire to establish their confederates and friends in happiness and firm peace, and since the nation of the Jews and their high priest Hyrcanus sent to them as ambassador Strato, son of Theodatus, Apollonius, son of Alexander, Ennius, son of Antipater, Aristobulus, son of Amyntas, and Sosipater, son of Philip, worthy and good men who gave a full account of their affairs, the Senate then made a decree concerning what they requested. It ordered that Antiochus the king, son of Antiochus, should do no injury to the Jews, the confederates of the Romans, that the fortresses, harbors, country, and whatever else he had taken from them should be restored to them, that they should be allowed to export goods from their own harbors, that no king or people should be allowed to export any goods either from the country of Judea or from their harbors without paying customs, except only Ptolemy, king of Alexandria, because he is our confederate and friend, and that, as they requested, the garrison in Joppa should be expelled. Lucius Patius, one of our senators, a worthy and good man, ordered us to take care that these things be carried out according to the Senate's decree, and also to see that their ambassadors return home safely. Accordingly, we admitted Theodorus into our Senate and Assembly, and received from him both the letter and the decree of the Senate. Since he spoke with great zeal about the Jews, and described Hyrcanus' virtue and generosity, and how he was a benefactor to all people in general and especially to everyone who came to him, we deposited the letter in our public records. We also made our own decree that, since we too are in confederacy with the Romans, we would do everything we could for the Jews according to the Senate's decree. Theodorus, who brought the letter, also asked our praetors to send Hyrcanus a copy of that decree, as well as ambassadors to express to him our people's affection for him, to urge them to preserve and increase their friendship with us, and to be ready to grant us other benefits, since they may justly expect proper returns from us. He also asked them to remember that our ancestors were friendly to the Jews even in the days of Abraham, the father of all the Hebrews, as we have also found written in our public records. This is the decree of those of Halicarnassus. When Memnon, son of Orstidas by descent but by adoption son of Euonymus, was priest, on the day of the month Aristerian, the people made this decree on the representation of Marcus Alexander. Since we have always had great regard for piety toward God and for holiness, and since we aim to follow the people of the Romans, the benefactors of all mankind, in what they have written to us about a league of friendship and mutual assistance between the Jews and our city, and about allowing their sacred offices and customary festivals and assemblies to be observed by them, we have decreed that as many men and women of the Jews as wish to do so may celebrate their Sabbaths, perform their holy offices according to Jewish laws, and hold their prosody by the seaside according to the customs of their forefathers. If anyone, whether magistrate or private person, prevents them from doing this, he shall be liable to a fine to be applied to the uses of the city. This is the decree of the Sardians, made by the Senate and people on the representation of the praetors, since those Jews who are fellow citizens and live with us in this city have always received great benefits from the people, and have now come into the Senate and asked the people that, now that their law and liberty have been restored by the Senate and people of Rome, they may assemble together according to their ancient lawful custom, and that we will bring no suit against them on that account, and that a place may be given to them where they may hold their congregations with their wives and children and may offer their prayers and sacrifices to God as their forefathers did. The Senate and people have decreed to permit them to assemble together on the days formerly appointed and to act according to their own laws. The praetors shall set apart for them a place suitable, in their judgment, for building and inhabiting for that purpose. Those who are responsible for the city's provisions shall also take care that the kinds of food they consider lawful to eat may be imported into the city. This is the decree of the Ephesians. When Menophilus was praetanes, on the first day of the month Artemisius, the people made this decree. Nicanor, son of Euphemus, pronounced it on the representation of the praetors, since the Jews who live in this city petitioned Marcus Julius Pompeius, son of Brutus, the proconsul, asking to be allowed to observe their Sabbaths and to act in all things according to the customs of their forefathers, without hindrance from anyone. The praetor has granted their petition. Accordingly, the Senate and people decreed that, in this matter concerning the Romans, none of them should be hindered from keeping the Sabbath day, nor fined for doing so, but that they may be allowed to do all things according to their own laws. There are many such decrees of the Senate and of the imperators of the Romans, and others different from the ones before us, that were made in favor of Hyrcanus and of our nation. There have also been more decrees of cities and more rescripts of praetors in response to letters concerning our rights and privileges. Anyone who is not hostile to what we write may certainly believe that all of them have the same meaning, on the basis of the examples we have included. Since we have produced clear signs, still visible, of the friendship we have had with the Romans, and have shown that those signs are engraved on columns and bronze tablets in the Capitol, where they still exist and are preserved to this day, we have omitted the rest as unnecessary and tedious. I cannot suppose that anyone is so perverse as to refuse to believe in the friendship we have had with the Romans, when they have demonstrated it by such a large number of decrees concerning us. Nor will anyone doubt our reliability concerning the rest of those decrees, since we have shown that reliability in those we have produced. Thus we have sufficiently explained the friendship and confederacy we had with the Romans at those times.
And there we will pause, with young Herod marked as a coming man, able, fearless, and not to be crossed, and the Jews standing in the Roman world set down in black and white. But the ground is about to shift violently. Antony and Octavian now rule the Roman world, and far to the east the Parthians are about to pour over the frontier. Next time, in Part 4, the murder of Antipater by poison, Herod and his brother Phasaelus made tetrarchs by Antony, and the great Parthian invasion that sweeps Antigonus onto the throne and drives Herod into headlong flight. Mind the footnotes, and beware the folly. And before the lamp goes out, a small request. If something tonight taught you, or surprised you, or simply delighted you, do leave a comment and tell me what it was. And if there is a work, an author, or a tale you should like me to take up next, set it down there as well. I read every one, and many an episode has begun its life as a viewer's suggestion. Until next time.